Is there anything you'd like to say? Yeah. First of all, my sympathies go out to the family, Mr. Mills. I can't imagine what they're going through this morning. Yakunohi one day, he's heading to the golf course to watch a tournament and, few moments later he's trying to cross street and, now, he's no longer with us. So, I can't imagine what they are going through. My heart, Yakuno, I feel for them. I'm sorry. My situation will get handled. It was just it was a chaotic situation and a big misunderstanding, and me can't comment on any of the specifics of it. So, I feel like y'all are going to be disappointed, but can't comment any specifics. But my situation will be handled. It was the comment heard around the golf world. A single brutal sentence from few world's #1 golfer, aimed directly at his most polarizing rival. Scottie Scheffler didn't just win on the course. He launched a verbal missile that shattered the facade of courtesy. And when it landed, the crowd erupted, and the landscape of golf shifted forever. This is the story of a rivalry ignited not by a putt, but by a pronouncement. If you live for golf's raw, unfiltered drama, you need to see this. Subscribe and hit the bell because the war for Thassel of golf has just begun. To understand the earthquake, you must first understand the fault line it erupted from. The 2024 PGA Tour season was, by any measure, the era of Scottie Scheffler. He wasn't just winning, he was operating on a different plane of The putts dropped, the irons were laced guided, and the green jackets were piling up. But it was his demeanor that defined his dominance. Scottie Scheffler was a portrait of unshakable faith, a man whose composure seemed carved from marble, his emotions locked away behind a veil of Midwestern politeness. He was golf's silent assassin, and the sport bowed at his feet. And then there was Bryson DeChambeau, the scientist, the disruptor, the man who once tried to conquer the game through pure, unadulterated physics. He was the polar. Where Scheffler was quiet, Bryson was a crescendo. Where Scheffler spoke in cliches, Bryson spoke in data points and declarations. After a period in the wilderness, battling injuries and criticism, Bryson was engineering a furious comeback. But this wasn't the old Bryson. This was a new live-stream savvy, fan-friendly version. He was building his brand on YouTube, engaging with fans in a way no one else did, presenting himself as the people. He was crafting a narrative for revolutionary, a man of the people fighting against the stodgy establishment of golf, and at the heart of that establishment, whether he wanted to be or not, was Scottie Scheffler. 12 males, 2 competing ideologies. One believed the game was won in the quiet of the heart and the rhythm of death. The other believed it was won in lab and through the force of personality. It was a collision waiting for a place to happen. That place was Valhalla. The 2024 PGA Championship at Valhalla Golf Club is already etched in history for its chaotic finish, but the true spark was lit earlier in the tense, sun-drenched humidity of the third round. The specifics of the incident is what make it so volatile. It wasn't a dramatic rules dispute played out on national television. It was subtler, more personal. It happened in the space between players, a breach of the game's unwritten code. As Scheffler was preparing for a critical approach, shot deep in his pre-shot routine, Thessalon's was fractured. From an Bryson's group playing ahead created an unexpected disturbance. Reports from on-site journalists and whispers from caddies described it as a moment of excessive noise, a dropped bag, a loud conversation, an intrusion into the sanctity of focus. For any golfer, this is a minor annoyance. Fourth world #1. In the heat of a major championship, it was Scheffler stepped away. The camera caught a fleeting look, a brief turn-off head in the direction of Thekama. It wasn't a glare of anger, but something far more telling, a look of pure, unadulterated disruption. It was the look of a master craftsman whose concentration had been shattered. Hair grouped, he executed his shot, but that image was done. The seed of frustration was planted. In that moment, the silent assassin had been provoked. There were no words exchanged on the course, no finger pointing, or public confrontation. The tension was left to simmer in the Kentucky heat. A silent promise of reckoning to come. Scheffler continued this round, his face a mask of but beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. He had endured the bombast, the theatrics, the constant noise, but this was different. This was a direct infringement on his process, his sanctuary. And Scottie Scheffler's sanctuary was where championships were won. The golf world expected the usual. They expected the Pistron press conference to be masterclass in deflection. They expect Heto here. Scheffler praised the course, thanked the volunteers, and talk about staying in the moment and controlling what I can control. What they got was a tectonic shift. The moderator asked a seemingly innocuous question about the challenges of maintaining focus with outside distractions. Scheffler leaned into the microphone. The calm demeanor remained, but the words that came out were not coated in sugar. They were forged in steel. He didn't name Bryson. He didn't have to. The context was a thunderclap. In a calm, measured, yet icy tone, Scheffler delivered the lean that would detonate the golficus. He said, and this is a direct quote from May 18, 2024, at that level, there's an expectation, a professionalism, and respect for your fellow competitors. When that's lacking, it's not a distraction. It just shows you that some people are playing a different gaming, not just with their clubs. The room went still. You could hear the wore-off Chimera shutters. Did Scotty Scheffler just say that? The subtext was a sledgehammer, a disappointment, lacking professionalism, playing a different game. This was no veiled criticism. This was a public indictment. He wasn't criticizing Bryson's golf. He was criticizing his character. He was drawing a line in the sand between Waith represented, respect, tradition, quiet excellence, and what he perceived Bryson to represent, disruption, ego, and a lack of fundamental courtesy. The different game comment was the killer blow. It implied that Bryson's entire project, the YouTube channel, the loud interactions, the scientific persona, was all a sideshow, an affront to the true spirit of the game Scheffler held dear. In less than 30 seconds, Scheffler had transformed from a placid champion into a defiant king defending his kingdom. The mic was dropped. The war was declared. The fallout was instantaneous and volcanic. The clip of Scheffler's comment went supernova. It wasn't just sports news. It was cultural news. But the true measure of its impact was felt the very next day on the grounds of Valhalla. As Scotty Scheffler made his way to the first tee for the final round, the crowd's reaction wasn't like anything he had ever experienced. It wasn't just applause. It was a roar of affirmation. It was the sound of a crowd choosing its gladiator. Every time Scotty stepped onto a tee box, the ears were deafening. And when Bryson's name was announced or he approached a green, a palpable, simmering sigh. The fans had taken Scotty's city en masse. They were his jury and they had delivered their verdict. Online, the digital coliseum erupted into chaos. Golf Twitter fractured into two armed. One side, champion Scheffler. Finally, someone said it, wrote one. A sentiment echoed thousands after. Bry is a clown who disrespects a game. Scheffler is a class act. Another post read, Scotty didn't just win the tournament, he won the soul of golf. The other side mobilized behind Bryson. Scotty's a robot with a gut complex. One supporter fired back. Bryson is trying to grow the game and make it fun. Scotty is a gatekeeper. Prominent analysts weighed in. A former champion called Scheffler's commenter refreshingly honest, while a popular podcast host accused him of elitism and being threatened by a new generation. The incident was dissected frame by frame. Had Bryson truly been that loud? Was Scotty justified, or was he being a The debate raged, but one thing was clear. A line had been drawn. Golf was no longer just about birdies and bog. It was about ideologies, and the entire world was watching. But what was really behind that comment? To write it off as simple frustration over Anwar's complaint is to miss the end. Scotty Scheffler's words were not a momentary lapse. They were the erupta of a long, dormant volcano. They were the culmination of years of watching the game he loved transform into a spectacle. For Scotty, golf is a sacred pursuit. It's a mental and spiritual battle against oneself, played with respect for history, for the course, and for the opponent. Bryson Chambeau in his eyes represented the antithesis of that. The constant talk of bomb and gouge, the single-length irons, the scientific dissection. It reduced its art form to a brute force equation. The loud persona, the social media, it all felt like a performance that overshadowed the purity of the sport itself. The incident at Valhalla was simply the final straw. It was the moment the abstract became concrete. It wasn't about a dropped bag. It was about a dropped standard. In that moment, Bryson wasn't just a noisy competitor. He was a symbol of the disrespect Scotty Scheffler felt was creeping into the comment. Some people are replaying a different game, was the core of it all. Scotty Scheffler believes Hayes playing golf. He believes Bryson is playing Bryson.